Welcome everyone, it's Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It is September 18th, 2019. The show, as always, is presented by the Marijuana Times. Find us at marijuanatimes.org. Also, of course, you can find the show on YouTube. Search Marijuana Times on YouTube. Almost 2,500 subscribers there. Click the little notification bell so it tells you, your phone or whatever your device is, tells you and notifies you when a new episode of Cannabis News has dropped. As the kids say, today we're talking more about the vaping health problems and the issues surrounding that. Also some news out of Maine and out of Pennsylvania as well. All of that coming up. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Grow safe and poison-free with Natureside. Be regulatory compliant. Don't use banned pesticides. Don't put awful, awful chemicals on what you're growing. Use Natureside. nature-side.com, proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Thank you, Natureside. This first story by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org. Vaping health problems. Where do we go from here? Basically another update from last week on the vaping health problems. Last week I got a chance to talk to Morgan Fox, who's the Media Relations Director for the National Cannabis Industry Association. We talked a lot about the vaping, the problems with the fact that there's really not much the federal government can do because they prohibit marijuana, so there's no regulations, there's no tinkering, there's no recalls that they can institute. There's really nothing the federal government can do, so they went after e-cigarettes, which is something they can go after. Not going to solve the problem, obviously, as we've talked about before, but it shows, or at least gives the illusion that they're doing something about what people perceive as a problem. And it has been a problem for a lot of people. The last I heard that the deaths associated with the vaping problems is still at 6. Hopefully that is still the case. Hopefully it doesn't go up anymore. I hope what's going on with the slowdown in reported cases and the death toll, if you will, ceasing to rise anymore, I hope it has a lot to do with people who watch shows like this, read articles like the ones I'm writing, other people are writing, and getting the word out there. I hope people who are using, especially the legal THC vapes, they have the nice packaging you used to be able to buy from Amazon. It looks real, but it's only $40 or $50 as opposed to $90 or $100. I hope people who use those, a lot of them are backing away from that. I hope people who thought about using those have decided against it. I can't stress enough that it's just if someone has illegal vape cartridges, especially the THC ones, it's not worth it. There's no way to know what is in there. The packaging's not going to tell you. Obviously, could have been bought from Amazon up till a couple weeks ago and other places on the internet. Everything except for the oil itself can be bought somewhere. They package it up. It looks nice. It looks legal. It looks regulated. They even get little stickers that say it is legal, but it's not. And there's no way to know what it's been diluted with, cut with, whatever's been added to it. Even the vitamin E acetate that's been in a lot of the samples. It could be something like that, something that's not necessarily bad in and of itself, but becomes toxic with interaction with other chemicals, becomes toxic when inhaled. Problems like that can arise. Is just not worth it. If you can't get some flour and it's the only thing you have, I understand, but be warned. It's health problems could arise. Hopefully a lot of people were heeding that warning. I asked Morgan Fox about whether or not this issue is going to push federal marijuana law reform any. As I said when I talked to him last week, they'd only come back from recess in Congress for a few days. He says it's tough to tell if it's really bending the needle at this point because it's a pretty low priority issue for most politicians. They're dealing with all sorts of other stuff like gun control, border issues, trying to figure out the national budget. Of course, also you add to that the battles, the constant battles between the Democrats and President Trump in Washington, D.C. So it's hard to tell if anything's going to come of the issue itself in terms of federal marijuana law reform. But hopefully, like I said, that people are being warned away from the illegal vape cartridges, and hopefully the death toll doesn't go up anymore, and hopefully the number of reported cases dwindles away to nothing as people learn what they should and shouldn't do, and what they can and can't trust out there. Hopefully we've done our part to kind of help that along and help that education onslaught, the needed education and information that's out there. Hopefully we've done our small part, at least, in warning people away from the illegal vape cartridges. This next story is from PressHerald.com. Confusion reigns as Maine rolls out its marijuana tracking system. As you know, Maine, you may remember, voters legalized adult use marijuana in Maine in November of 2016, almost 3 years ago. Of course, the governor then was Paul LePage. He was not a fan. He vetoed a lot. He stalled a lot. But there's a new sheriff in town. There's a new governor of the state who is more inclined to allow what the voters wanted to unfold. But there are problems, as at least according to this story, with the tracking tags. Apparently there was some confusion. The state marijuana industry didn't like what it saw when it got its first look at Maine's new track and trace system Monday. Hundreds and hundreds of 25-cent tags required to catalog every plant's path to pre-rolled joint, vape cartridge, or infused candy. Medical marijuana caregiver Dawson Julia of Unity said this will drive prices through the roof. It's going to put a lot of people out of business. It will make medicine so expensive that nobody will be able to afford it. It will guarantee the survival of the black market. 5 hours later, long after most of the 300 shell-shocked growers, manufacturers, and retailers had left the track and trace kickoff event, the Office of Marijuana Policy issued a clarification. Individual retail products will not require their own trace and tag and trace tag. After all, they point out the problem isn't the cost of the tags, which are only about a quarter a piece. It's the thousands of tags that would have been needed under what retailers thought was the original plan and what growers thought was the original plan. It says, consider it would have required 1,178 tags at a total cost of $295 to convert a 10-pound cannabis plant into half milliliter vape cartridges based on typical yields. Turning the plant into the single-serving 10-milligram chocolate truffles would have required almost 59,000 tags at a cost of $14,725, which, of course, is a bit much. It's a bit much for some tags on some weed plants that are going to make some chocolate truffles. You want each truffle to be $5,000. It's ridiculous. Under the clarified system, however, the producer would only need a single tag for the plant, a second tag that covered the harvest batch, and could cover a whole room full of plants if the grower harvested them all at once, and a third tag attached to the final package sold to the consumer. Under the system, the financial impact of the tagging system could be limited if a grower can harvest a whole group of plants at once and if the consumer can buy products in bulk. Growers and retailers said, but single-serving products, a favorite among new customers, would still be hard hit. All this, of course, stems from this notion that every single plant has to be tracked in order that it doesn't get diverted to the black market. The most evil thing apparently can ever happen when it comes to marijuana is legal marijuana being diverted to the black market because of someone who's not qualified and doesn't have permission, explicit permission from the government, gets a hold of some marijuana that wasn't meant for them. Well, that's just a really, really awful thing. So businesses have to shell a lot of money to put on track and trace systems as if these plants are children that you've put a GPS watch on or something so they don't get lost in the mall. They're plants. And some of them go elsewhere or they end up in the hands of someone who the government, whether state or federal or whoever, feels isn't qualified in the end. It's not that big a deal. It's really not. Again, it goes back to this notion that these plants are these really dangerous, volatile, noxious, toxic things that we have to make sure that they go where they're supposed to go and the wrong people don't get them. They're just marijuana plants. If some of the wrong people, air quotes, get a hold of them, I don't know what that means. It means nothing to me, but apparently means something if you work in government. The wrong people get a hold of the marijuana, it's not the end of the world. It's not that big a deal. But a lot of states still feel it is, especially Maine. So they got to go through all of these problems so they can put little tags on the plants that they grow. Imagine that. It's just a plant. You can put a tag on it. As if it's, find my iPhone. I don't know. It's nuts. It's nuts. Unnecessary. Even the 3 tags or whatever is an unnecessary expense that's going to raise prices and keep a certain portion of the black market alive where, they don't need tags because it's stupid. Sorry. to be so forward about it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. In the end, whatever it's supposed to be solving is not really a problem at all. Which is the government's specialty. Spend a lot of money solving a problem that doesn't exist. This next story, last but not least, is from Inquirer.com. Big marijuana. Florida firm rolls up 15 dispensary permits in Pennsylvania. Jushi Holdings Incorporated, the Florida-based cannabis company that bought out Beyond Hello's 4 Pennsylvania permits in July, announced that it was acquiring the majority interest in Agape Total Healthcare Incorporated. Agape, out of Lehigh County, won a permit from the Department of Health in December to operate 3 dispensaries in the Keystone State. They would open medical marijuana outlets in Center City, Philadelphia, Reading, and Pottsville. Pottsville. Jushi will continue that plan. I know. Stupid puns are fun. Jushi will look to operate as many as 15 dispensaries in Pennsylvania, the maximum number allowed under state law. Former founder and president Eric Moff said Jushi will not attempt to add any additional retail outlets in Pennsylvania at this time. We have no desire to try to exceed the regulatory limit, he said. We feel 15 stores is enough. That's a lot. We should have 9 of those open by year's end. So medical marijuana moving right along in Pennsylvania. A lot more patients being added. Qualifying conditions, more retail dispensaries, licenses, all that stuff. Moving forward, which is more than can be said for a lot of states, whether it's medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. At least they're moving forward and growing the program in Pennsylvania. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show today. We're here 5 days a week, of course, on Cannabis News. MarijuanaTimes.org is where you can find us. Also, the videos are on YouTube and Vimeo. And if you want the audio version of the podcast, of course, Apple Podcasts, where you can find that. Thank you for watching and listening and sharing and commenting and spreading the truth about cannabis with this show. Thanks for watching and listening today. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.